Last week at Gamescom, I got to play one of the most anticipated VR games of this year, Behemoth by Skydance Interactive, the developers behind one of my favorite games of all time, The Walking Dead: Saints and Sinners. And I'm just gonna straight up say it, this game has serious VR Game of the Year potential. I'll be showing you brand new gameplay from my playtest and going through the graphics, the mechanics, combat, and my overall first impressions of Behemoth. You won't want to skip any part of this video because I'm spilling all the beans. Behemoth is coming to MetaQuest, Steam VR and PSVR 2 later this year, and the demo I played was on PC using a Quest 3. I started this video by making a huge claim that this could very easily become VR Game of the Year, so let's go into a few more details on why I said that. First off, let's start by talking about the graphics, because us VR lovers have been burned too many times with awesome looking trailers just to then try out the game and be disappointed. Well, I'm happy to report this is not the case here. The game looks stunning in both indoor environments as well as outdoor ones, with lots of detailed textures as well as great shadows and lighting. The first thing I noticed when booting up the game was how well crafted everything was. The atmosphere from the cave I started in got me even more excited about what was to come. And boy oh boy was I in for a few crazy surprises. While the game does look stunning, what caught my attention when seeing the first trailers of it were the mechanics. Oh, the absolutely brutal combat and grappling hook mechanics. And I was not disappointed in the least. In my demo, I had access to a sword as well as a huge badass axe. The feeling of weight in the weapons was on point and I felt really powerful wielding them. I walked through these cave systems and went through a mini tutorial on how to use my gear, including the iconic grappling hook we've kept seeing in the gameplay trailers. Fun fact here, I was chatting with the developers before my demo, and apparently the swinging mechanics from the grappling hook are designed by the same dude who developed the swinging in Spider-Man 2. I won't say the swinging was super easy to get the hang of, no pun intended, but I will say it was very satisfying and I can't wait to do more of it. You can use the grappling hook both on grappling points like the ones you're seeing on screen now, as well as enemies and, of course, behemoths, but we'll get to that in a minute. Once I traversed to the other side, it was time for my first encounter with enemies. And I knew this was gonna be good, but I wasn't ready for how badass the combat feels. Skydance took all of their experience from Saints and Sinners and multiplied it by 10 here. Not only does the weapon's weight feel great to handle, but hitting and slashing enemies is a very meaty experience. From the visuals to the sound effects, I wish there were more enemies there to fight because it felt awesome and extremely brutal. You can slash off limbs, heads, pull them towards you with the grappling hook, grab them, punch them, whatever you can think of you can probably do. But probably the most insane part is that you have a button that activates Rage Mode, which gives you insane strength for a few seconds. And I really wish there was a cheat code to have that on all of the time because it makes you feel unstoppable. Whether you're just fighting them with your bare hands or using weapons to go through them like butter, my god is it an awesome experience. But as great as it was fighting these puny zombie humans or whatever they are, I was not ready for meeting my first behemoth, Dreadstag. As I was exiting the caves, I saw him in the distance, and my heart started pounding. But as I was getting closer and closer, he kept getting bigger and bigger. When I made it to his feet and looked up, it was a marvelous and terrifying experience, and I've never seen anything like it in all my years of VR. I don't even think the recording does it justice, because looking up at this dude felt like looking up at the Empire State Building. My first thought was, honestly, how the hell am I gonna fight that? There's no way. Where do I even start? Now, I don't want to spoil anything for you, but as you can imagine, there is a way to start climbing the behemoth and slowly but strategically weaken him up to the point where you have the slightest chance of winning against this gargantuan beast. Once on him, you start scaling his sides, grappling to the next point and taking down these disgusting weak points. Now, I'm not a big fan of this word, but it genuinely felt epic. Of course, when you do hit a weak point, bro is not going to be happy and will try to get you off of him. So you need to think fast and get away from that point quick, or he's gonna scratch you like the tiny itch you are. Now, even though fighting the behemoth is a somewhat linear path, the game doesn't restrict how you get from point to point. At one point, I even tried a jump, dash, and grapple maneuver that the devs said they'd never seen anyone try before. And I almost pulled it off if it weren't for those meddling kids. For those of you born after the year 2000, just ignore that last sentence because it probably didn't make any sense. For my fellow millennials, drop a comment below if you know that reference. I've played a lot of VR games, and I mean a lot, but I've never experienced anything quite like Behemoth. Before my demo, I even got a chance to have a great chat with Brian, the game director for Behemoth, and I could see it in his eyes that he was extremely passionate about it. We even talked about Saints and Sinners and how they gathered all of the feedback they got from the community for that game and applied it to Behemoth. He mentioned one important part that players wished was different in Saints and Sinners was being able to save mid-run and come back to that point at a later date. Brian and the team understand that not everyone can play for 2-3 hours or more at a time, so they've ensured that Behemoth is the type of game that can be played in smaller chunks, even 30 minutes at a time. And a key element here is that you will still feel like you've progressed in that half-hour session, which I think is really cool for gamers with limited time available. So yes, even though I had a fairly short play session of Behemoth, I stand by what I've said. This has a huge chance of becoming the VR game of the year, and it deserves every bit of it. From the brutal combat that allows you to fight your way to traversing the environment and swinging with your grappling hook, it has been a wow experience for me, and I don't get that often nowadays. Then of course meeting my first Behemoth and climbing him until I couldn't see the ground anymore and clouds started to appear. This game has so much to offer and I'm super eager to play more of it, so make sure to subscribe if you want to see more of Behemoth later this year. What are your thoughts on the game? Is it a day one purchase for you? Ask me anything in the comments below and I'll answer as best I can. Thanks so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers guys!